Okay, thank you very much. Gisela or Bob, as I often call you, welcome to the Conversations on Buddha Nature. It's a great honor for us to have you. Through these conversations, it's our hope to develop a space for exchanging views, insights, and experiences on Buddha nature and related topics.
Yes.
And I often say this is a forum where we try to practice right speech, mindful listening, and wholesome exploration of meaning in life and existence as a whole. So
Right.
it's a great honor to have you.
It's my honor
Talk to
to
us
be with you.
and help us promote this ethos of Buddha nature or innate goodness, positive perception. I would like to actually, given your very rich background, being a leading advocate and teacher of Buddhism, particularly of Tibetan Buddhism, with such great stature and influence. I've heard you speak so many times. I've read many works that you have written. I think with your stature, I'm quite actually interested to know when and where you first encountered this concept of Buddha nature and what kind of impression you had, if you can recall.
Yes, yes. Well, I think I thought about that question, and I think the first time I did was maybe reading the Lankavatara Sutra, where the Buddha mentions the Buddha nature. And I think that context was the context of reassuring those who had a strong view of self, of the reality of their self, strong belief in that, reassuring them that there was something like that in the Buddha's teaching, even though the Buddha's, one of his main teachings was the teaching of selflessness. And I believe that's how I understood it, as a kind of stratagem for reassuring people that the selflessness, the lack of self, had to do with a certain type of self conceived as an absolute, unchanging, fixed identity within a person. So the idea that a person had a Buddha nature was presented sort of as a strategy, teaching strategy to reassure someone who would mistake selflessness for thinking that Buddha was teaching nihilism, that you don't exist at all. And that's how I think I first encountered it, and I appreciated it for that reason. And then second, I encountered it in and thought about it more deeply when I was working for my PhD at Harvard, working on the, but I was doing the work in India at that time, in the 1971. And I was almost 50 years ago. And I was seeing there that really it means emptiness. I mean, I got the idea that that's mainly what it means, and emptiness in the sense that a being is susceptible or to transformation into Buddhahood. So emptiness being the guarantee of the relativity of all things, therefore one could develop and evolve to becoming a Buddha, even though one was an ignorant being to start with. And so I left it there. And then only at the more recently, I would say maybe 8-10 years ago, one of my graduate students, a Chinese gentleman actually, by the name of Marty Jiang, who got a PhD with me from China, and he translated the long chapter in the Uttara Tantra on the element, the way in which the Buddha nature is treated there. And through translating into Chinese and English both, the Buddha nature theory in there. And that is when I had my strongest sense of the Buddha nature, actually. And I was so delighted, I've been delighted ever since, which is the idea that what the Buddha nature really is the Buddha's mind in us. Because the Dharmakaya of Buddha I think the best translation of Dharma in that context is reality itself. So the reality body of Buddha, if we translate Dharmakaya like that, is everything. A Buddha is a being who feels they are everything. And that means everything, including the beings. And so a Buddha completely empathizes with all the beings and feels he is them somehow, inconceivably, simultaneously with being the Buddha. And therefore, Buddha thinks he's you and me and Marcus and all the people here. And he's fully aware, therefore, from the inside, so to speak, of all our obscurations and this and that. But because of his oneness with us, from his point of view, which is a better point of view than ours, it's an enlightened point of view, we have this oneness with him and this potential to be equal to him, which he wants us to be. He's unhappy as we are. Actually, he's not unhappy at all, but he realized that he feels our unhappiness. He's able to feel our unhappiness by being fully empathetic with the way we feel. So therefore, his presence in us, as us, is our Buddha nature, the way that Gyaltsab and the way that Maitreya Natha portrays it in that, and Asanga's own commentary on that, Arya Asanga's commentary on that, Pagma Togmela. So then, ever since then, I feel very happy with the idea of Buddha nature, in the sense of I feel the closeness of the Shakyamuni Buddha and all the Buddhas, of course, because there's no difference between Buddhas in the reality body level, right? Although, of course, ultimately that's just a bunch of language I just said, and that is ultimately inconceivable, naturally, like the Buddha's nature, inexpressible, which I'm very fond of Buddha for that reason. I'm fond of him that he knows everything, but then he admitted right away he couldn't explain it exactly. He could only give, perspectives.